Ooh, we're back, baby. Horns up, talking Texas. Fisher Desopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider, the Quan Cosby's off this week. We'll see him back here next week. Gentlemen, Toss and I talked about it, Nick, when you were in Vegas on a nice little family trip. We recapped the Michigan game, but we didn't get your thoughts. Would love to hear from your perspective. A week later almost, how are you feeling after that Michigan beatdown in the big house?
I mean, I feel amazing about it. The fact that they also just gave Sharon Moore a massive contract extension too. I mean, I guess that's what you get when you don't lose to Texas by 4 touchdowns. You lose to them by 3 plus. So yeah, I mean, I think ultimately like it was a clean game all around the board. I was super impressed with our defense, obviously, but I was more impressed, I think, with the offensive line being able to stymie that defensive line that has first round talent on there. There's guys that are projected to go in the top 10 that really didn't get any love at all. People thought that Colston Loveland was going to be the star of the game, and we punch out, force a fumble on him, and he doesn't get that many yards on us. And Donovan Edwards also has a slow game. I mean, all around, like, this is beautiful. Like walking into their house, and Josh, you were there, and I texted you. I said, "How loud is it?" And you're like, "It was deafening for the first, 3 plays, and then it was over. It was quiet. People were leaving early." Like, it felt so good to finally, have the hype and live up to the hype. And Quinn obviously now being the Heisman favorite after playing a pretty good, clean game, spreading the ball out. Obviously my favorite receiver, Matthew Golden, got a touchdown and, led our team in receptions. And, oh, man, it just all around, just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
the sack that we were looking for, and of course it was Colin Simmons, the freshman, who we think is gonna have it for the next 3 years. So we're excited.
Yeah, I know Ewers thing. He's been such a hot topic in college football now, is becoming one of the premier quarterbacks, Heisman favorite. Shador Sanders did not handle the media well after the Nebraska loss, so that's hurt his draft stock go.
Well, I would say if you want to play a fun game with yourself this season, every week check in on mock drafts in the NFL and see Quinn's draft stock rise in real time.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's going to fortify himself as the season goes on as a top 10 pick. And I think one of the Toss, I told you this the other show, I was so jealous you hit the Stafford comp, and it's something you've been saying, and it's something I truly believe in. I think we all believe in, like, the type of quarterback he is. Calm, cool, collective, can make all the throws, stands in the pocket, and delivers, which is very different than we see from other quarterbacks in today's game, where they're trying to scramble, trying to move around, trying to make something happen with their legs and improvise. Quinn's confident in Sark's offense and his ability to command it, to sit in the pocket and go. And you talk about, how I texted y'all was deafening for the first 3 plays. 3rd and 13. Typically 3rd and 13, it's that loud. We're on the road. A typical Texas team crumbles, punts, and
we were great on 3rd down.
We're on deep. We were insane on 3rd down. We had a 33-yard reception to Bond, and I'm like, dude, this is a different program. This is a different quarterback, a guy that does not get phased. Anything you throw his way, he is going to be capable of handling. And that's what I think is ultimately going to eventually set him apart from some of these other quarterbacks. And he's going to have his moment to shine against the presumed number 1 overall pick in Carson Beck, who has been masterful for the Georgia Bulldogs thus far. He's going to have his time to shine in a head-to-head matchup. Stuff we've seen in the past. We've seen potential number 1s go do-si-do on the football field. And for Quinn on that game and going forward, he's only going to get more connected to the receivers. Golden. People got to keep in mind, like, we saw Worthy and A.D. Mitchell on Sunday, and and their top guys, like A.D. Mitchell, had the number 1 speed of receivers. The rookies, he had the top speed, faster than Worthy, clocked on Sunday. Goes to show you how talented he is. And we spoke about it, like, maybe in another show, that Richardson missed him on a couple deep throws where he would have had a score, and he would have been one of the talks of the town on Sunday. But Gold and Bond, Wingo, Cook, these are guys more who had snaps. Like, these are guys that have to be reworked into the offense that didn't get any Texas time really last year. Helm even, like, and Quinn is getting acclimated with these guys as well in game time against tough opponents. So the fact that things are looking this sharp early and often, like, Colorado State's no slouch. They might give Colorado a tough game. They gave him a tough game last year. Colorado's not that much of a favorite in this one. And we blanked them. We
Yeah.
beat the crap out of them. We beat the crap out of Michigan too, dude. It should have been 31-6. I'm sorry. Like they had a garbage time score, which cooked the under and lost our friend Will's girlfriend $200. But
Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams are the only two starting offensive tackle duo in the ICC that hasn't allowed a single QB hit or sack in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and they weren't even the offensive lineman of the week, right? It was Majors.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, Calvin Banks he's unbelievable. As much as we're talking about Quinn, offensive linemen never get the love that they deserve for being so important to how football is played. It's awesome to have that experience, and in particular with a system that Sark wants to run. And I think the thing that I get really excited about, the more games we get under our belt, we're not even utilizing motion in the way that we can. We talk about Matthew Stafford. That team lost against the Lions, but the one thing that he did expertly throughout that entire game, there was a guy in motion, if not two, on every single snap. And I think Quinn has the ability to call a game like that at the level of quarterbacking, that we revered from the guys that we watch, like Brady and Breeze. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as them, but that's the type of quarterback he is. He is a precision QB. He is a guy that is going to make an offense work. And I think the more experience he gets under his belt, the more Sark is going to take his hands off the reins and trust Quinn. The more Quinn's going to trust these receivers. I mean, he made that play where he stepped up into the pocket and he threw that first touchdown to Gunner. I don't know if you guys saw, and I didn't see until at some point this week, that as soon as he let the ball go, he turned to his right and started talking shit to the defensive tackle who was right next to him for the Michigan Wolverines. He hadn't even seen Gunner catch the ball, hadn't even seen it, and he was already talking smack. And the level of confidence that he is feeling for himself, it's at an all-time high. And when you're playing, when you're playing free because your first third down and long, you convert, you have no worries in the world. You're again, like I just said, you're playing free out there. And if he's playing free the way that he can sling the rock, we're scary. We're really scary. And Nick, you recapped that game so well. It's hard to, just like it was week one, it's hard to look at it and have negative takeaways. It just is. Like, I don't know what I can critique our team because we just look so prepared and we look so composed. And it was in the big house. Like,
we look like the number 2 team in the nation. And that's why we're the number 2 team in the nation. Absolutely. I'm super impressed with Gunnar Helm too, man. I think all of us we knew what that he's going to be an impact player, but I don't think any of us really expected him to step up and get the load that he's getting like JT Sanders was last year and being, the premier tight end. And we thought Nyblack was going to be the guy for us to just step in like that. And, no discredit to him, but man, Gunnar Helm making good catches, getting open in space, good hands, good blocker, big body, gets yards after catch. Like, he's doing everything that potentially could make him a day 2 pick in the NFL draft.
If you're a tight end, you don't need to blow the brakes off the place. You're not going long.
Just be reliable. Get open, catch the ball, and block.
Done. It's not a complicated position in that respect. You're not tasked to do a ton
Antonio
of
Gates,
stuff.
perfect example. Antonio Gates was a guru at getting open, catching the ball. That's it.
That's what Gunnar Helm was against Michigan. Find an open pocket, sit there, bang, good.
And make DBs and safety, make them pay when you get the ball because you're just that much bigger. And Gates obviously had the athleticism that some tight ends don't have. But a guy like Witten never fell backwards. He never lost 2 yards after he caught the ball. It was either he stayed firm where he was or he fell forward and converted a third down, second down, whatever it was. So I think Gunnar has the awareness factor to know where he is on the field and always kind of convert and be reliable for Quinn, which is huge. And that's why he's getting the looks instead of Nyblack. But hey, there's still room for Nyblack to get a ton of run in these next couple of games too.
Best player plays, man. I mean, I'm sure Sarkis still has things that he's working out to get guys involved and figure. Like we saw the Wingo thing. He still's got tricks up his sleeve. On the Helm point, he's my most improved player I've seen thus far. He's the guy that took the biggest jump for me, and a guy like you said, Nick, we didn't anticipate this. And the thing we have to work on, it is just a glaring issue. We have to get some semblance of a run game going.
Yep.
Have to, because that just
100%.
changes. It does, man. Like if you take away the Wingo run, like our running stats are not impressive. I'm not saying our running backs are bad, and I really think Gibson has to become somewhat of the bell cow. But we have to get a running game going to really open up, to make our passing game that much more dangerous. If we get to a point where they have to respect our run, not fear it, but they have to respect our run, that completely changes everything. Like when Baker and Andrews were cooking at OU, they had that play action where he would just hit Andrews in the seam, and it was like clockwork, man. Imagine having Gunner like that, working in the middle of the field, working kind of like 5 yards out on the outside of the field, and on a play action where everyone has to come in and he gets a one-on-one, or he gets no coverage because you're covering the receivers and people are collapsing on the thing. It changes everything, and it changes the whole landscape of our offense, and it ultimately make Quinn that much more dangerous.
Yeah.
Like getting the one-on-ones like that for the long balls where our receivers are speedy, So I think we need to get the run game going against UTSA.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was definitely my biggest issue that I had there. But like, we knew that this is going to be the issue against Michigan, is they have a really good run D. So minus the Wingo run, it's still, 90 plus yards on the ground. I mean, it's nothing insane, but it's better than, getting 30, 40 yards. I think, they're still trying to figure out who that premier back is too. I mean, the carries went 10 from Gibson, 8 from Trey Wisner, and 9 from Jaden Blue. So, like, I think they're going to continue to spread that out, and they probably don't want to, waste those legs early on in the season when you're going to really need them when, it comes down to us playing against Georgia and playing against Florida and playing against Arkansas and playing against OU. Like, these are good defenses as well. But, I mean, I'm with you. I also think that sometimes a good pass game could be an extension of the run game. And so we have that luxury of getting the ball to Bond and Bolden and Golden, being able to hit them on short routes. I don't know if you guys ever caught this, but on Twitter, and I wasn't really familiar with this podcast or this channel until this week. It's called the Carter Cast. And basically they've got one guy who's like a really big Michigan homer who said that he said that we're probably not going to score more than 10 points against Michigan. Like, if we could pull the soundbite, I would. But essentially, he was like, our defense is so good. I just don't know how they're going to be able to run the ball. Quinn Ewers is a different quarterback when he's blitzed. Quinn Ewers is a different quarterback when he's playing down. It's like, okay, well, look, everyone's a different quarterback when they're blitzed. Like, they have to do different things. His takes were terrible. But regardless, he thought that we would go in there and score less than 10 points, which would basically mean we'd score less than Fresno State did on Michigan.
You're not watching them. You're not watching us play it. I mean, at that point, you're just really not watching the tape, and all these things that you're saying are the takes. They're just arbitrary opinions.
They were, and it was a Homer Michigan take, and obviously he was very wrong. And like, I think his co-host was like, dude, you're ridiculous. Like put aside your Homer bias for a second. And then I think the following week he was like, I'm not going to apologize to Texas. I just want to say that, like, Michigan's not the team I thought we were. I was like, bro, like, it has nothing to do with Michigan. It's the fact that we just have too many cards to play. Like, Sark is like the little kid in the corner with all his Yu-Gi-Oh cards that's like ready to play his favorite card, and there's just so many different options. But, to the point, I just like being an extension, having your pass game be an extension of the run is something that's going to be super important. And that's why you went and got out all these speedy guys who you can, design screens to, you can design outs and quick plays to. The guy in that podcast basically said, like, how many throws did Quinn make over 10 yards? And his coach was like, does it matter? Like, doesn't matter. He still made the throws. He still made the decisions. And you know what? That right there is your pass game being an extension of the run game. Having you hit those quick outs and letting your guys get yards after catch, because we have some freaky athletes out there. Let them do their thing. Between the tackles, yeah, we got to figure it out, obviously, but I'm not worried. We're 2 games in. These guys are still trying to figure out who they are. Gibson's a freshman. Blue is not supposed to be the starter. Trey Wisner, I mean, I'd be surprised if he had more than 50 snaps last year. Like, these guys are getting a lot more run than they were planning on getting. And they're going to get their confidence and they're going to get their sea legs. And, luckily we've got a couple of tune-up games coming up against UTSA and against Louisiana Monroe. But, the SEC season is about to start, so we better figure it out fast.
Yeah, I mean, on on the run game as well, and on those points of like not going over 10 yards. One of the most important things in the NFL and college and football in general, 9 times out of 10, if you control the clock, you're going to win the football game. How many times did you see Tom Brady drop back 5 yards to Welker, 5 yards to Edelman, 5 yards to Hogan, 6 yards to Amendola, 12 yards to Gronkowski, 7 yards to Hernandez, like his whole career, dunk off to Folk, dunk off to Woodhead, like pick apart your defense, 8-minute drives, 14 plays, score. That's a drive. Yes, we want to see the bomb. That's like the fun thing for the fans.
We've talked about it since we started, since we even saw the first snap this season. We have a ton of speed in our receiving room. Defensive coordinators in college football are not dumb. None of these guys, it's their full-time job. These guys are all good at what they do. Of course, there's varying degrees of it. They're going to run a ton of shell coverage on us. They have to, because they can't get beat over the top by us and get beat that bad, because we will make them pay with Bond and Golden and Bolden. Like, that is just what's going to happen if you go single coverage on the outside with no safeties over the top. So it is imperative that our offense is able to function from 0 yards to 20 yards every single drive. And that's where Quinn has to be great. That's the most important thing. And what was so frustrating and where his game has developed so much is he used to make mistakes in that yardage, in those windows, right? He used to make mistakes on quick throws to the flat to the running back. He used to make mistakes on 5 to 7 yard throws across the middle to the tight end. And that's where I've seen the change. You're exactly right, Josh. Like, yes, it shows that he has the potential to be an NFL QB, but also those are the coverages we are going to see. These SEC defenses will not get beat over the top. So we have to pick them apart. And the run game is very important to that. So I'm with you guys. I guess my one distinction is I just have a lot of confidence that we're going to figure it out. I'm just not worried about us figuring it out, because I think we can.
I would like to figure it out in these next 2 weeks, though. That's my kicker. Like, we say these are tune-up games. I think Notre Dame got caught sleeping. I don't think Notre Dame's that bad. Like, I think they're going to be fine. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win the Natty.
You know what I loved about Sark this week is that he showed highlights of that game to the team this week of the Northern Illinois Notre Dame game. He said the Notre Dame game, they beat Texas A&M. They were the number 5 team in the nation, and they got caught sleeping at the wheel. That's not going to be us this week. We're not going to let that happen. We're the number 2 team in the nation, but we're still going to prepare for UTSA, and we're still going to prepare for Louisiana Monroe. We're not going to let this happen. So I'm confident it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but like that is what happened. So we have 2 games to really test things out before we see, our first SEC matchup, Mississippi State, which is nothing's a gimme in the SEC. And especially when, you're the number 2 team, everyone's trying to ruin your season. UTSA lost to Texas State 49-10. They got crushed. And Texas State's not a competitive football team. If you want to come in here and you want to hang 60 on a team, Saturday is going to be the day to do it. And you got to come in there and you got to go full-fledged. I would love to see Cook involved more. I'm not saying this is a weird thing, but
he had a huge play taken off the board too from a holding call.
I want to see him involved. I'm not worried about him leaving, but he's like kind of number 3 right now. He was behind the depth chart last year. You don't want to lose what we think is a talented guy in the transfer portal. So I think, I know I'm thinking way ahead, but I want to see him get involved, because at some point, like, it matters. And I think he is good, and I think he's shown good flashes. So I'd love to see him get 3 or 4 catches against UTSA.
I agree.
Yes, to at least work
all the guys. I mean, DeAndre Moore, he had that touchdown at the beginning of the game that got called off for another ticky-tack hold that was so ticky-tacky, but whatever. But like, that's one of those plays that, like, the kid either has it on their stat line or they don't all season long. And like, that's one of those things that could potentially sway them from transferring. And that was an early play too. And like the first drive of the game, getting Wingo in there early is awesome. Getting Niblet in there every now and then is awesome. Like, I want to make sure that everyone hits the field. I think that's always key, especially in games like this against UTSA and Louisiana Monroe.
And also, I think from week 1 to week 2, we've already seen it. It shows our versatility, which we then can use as a weapon, right? Gunnar he was involved in week 1, but he wasn't the focal point. And then in week 2, all of a sudden we unveiled him, right? And the more, not only is it important to keep these guys confident in their ability so that when they run routes for our receivers in particular, they're ready to go and they trust themselves, but it also masks what we can do and what's at our disposal for future opponents. So it all works in tandem together, but I'm definitely with you guys. Getting more Wingo and Jonte Cook involved in the passing game would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, I love that we won 31-12. It probably should have been 31-6. But we only had 2 wide receivers catch a pass, officially, because Jonte had one that got wiped off and DeAndre Moore had the touchdown that got wiped off. But Bond and Golden were our only 2 wide receivers that caught passes. Other guys that caught passes were Trey Wisener, Jaden Blue, and Gunnar Helm. So would have liked to see some official stats, some official catches in there for some of those guys.
Absolutely.
They have a good defense.
It's not easy.
Exactly. It's not easy. And we've seen in past, Sark doesn't mess around in games like this. And that's what I appreciate about him. Obviously the stakes are very high. They were incredibly high last year when we played teams like Alabama and anyone else on our schedule, especially as we were getting late into the season when the buzz was there. They can win the Big 12 championship. We're not going to mess around in situations like this. Last year and this year are too important. Our first year in the SEC is too important to dive deep into the bag of tricks when we don't need to, right? We need to win football games. That's what we want to do first and foremost. So I appreciate that that's his angle. But like we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, the next 2 weeks, knock on wood, are a different opportunity for us to showcase some of these other guys. So I'm
let's get into that.
Let's do it.
Before we do, I just want to shout out, we got a big commit right after our game, decommitted from Florida State and committed to the Horns, Myron Charles from Port Charlotte, Florida. So taking a kid from Florida who was committed to Florida State, decommitting because they're 0-2 and they're a mess over there at Florida State, and coming to Texas.
Did you guys see the water gun? No, they're 0-2. Did you guys see the water gun fight? They're having water gun fights at practice. And everyone's just fire everybody. Yeah, I mean, the recruit's great. And I will say, I do want to say one thing on Toss's point. We've commented on this a lot in the past. It's very Sark will take risks in the play calls, but he'll be very conservative in his rotations. He keeps a really tight rotation sometimes, and I think that's what we saw. But I do think on the flip side, on Nick and I's point and Jonte Cook and more, we don't think those guys are risks. We think they're worthy of taking that playing time, and it's not going that deep into the bag of tricks to get those guys in the field and get them official stats.
As we saw, and Nick mentioned, they were involved. Those plays just got called back. So they will continue to be involved for sure. UTSA, we have covered 2 weeks in a row, and we are 36-point favorites.
35.5. Opened at 33.5, but now it's 35.5.
35.5.
Minus 20,000 money line if you want to get crazy with it.
I think we cover that handily, actually. I would take the spread if it was 50. I know that's such a homer thing to say, but why not?
The over-under in this game is 56.5. So Vegas might be hedging their own bets there and thinking that we hang 60 on them and shut them out.
Yeah, I would love to see us hit the over ourselves. Just no foot on the gas, no prisoners. Continue to this is not a week where you're going to climb in the rankings, but can't
really climb much more,
Yeah, you can't really climb much more. Touche. But put everyone on notice, this offense isn't slowing down. We're just getting better and better, and we're getting more and more rhythm. I would love to see one thing in this game. We talk about it. Yes, we have that one sack, and it's Josh McCown's son, under center Owen McCown for UTSA. Very cool. I sack his lunch. I would love to see Hill get in there, Broughton get in there. I would love to see Simmons get in there again. Even let's see if we can get some DB sacks. Our DBs are flying all over the field. Makuba, Barron might be the best safety duo in the league. Yeah. So I would love to see that, or DB duo in the league. I would love to see maybe a couple sacks in the stat sheet to get that rhythm going as well. But That's my favorite position group we have is our DBs.
Yeah, I
It's hard
agree.
not to
I
pick.
think continuing with the turnover battle too. Like we had 3 turnovers last week. Should have had 4. I mean, one of them was overturned. Could have gone either way in my opinion. But regardless, having the 2 big picks and the forced fumble on Loveland, which was huge, punched out there. He fumbled it on his own leg. But regardless, I feel like keeping that going, keeping the turnover kebab that Anthony Hill called it, the sword with the footballs in there, keeping that going because obviously that's giving you better field advantage, field positioning, giving you more time for possessions, giving you more time to get the ball to the guys that you want to. Keep that going. Sacks are huge too, and then just keep on the confidence with the O line. I mean, like O-line is for sure a confidence position. Obviously, like you got to be big, you got to be strong, you got to know, your coaching and everything like that. But there's so much confidence that goes into it. And for those guys to know that they're the baddest O-line, like the baddest mothers out there heading into SEC play, like there's something to that, because Kelvin Banks, we already know he's projected to be a first rounder, but Cam Williams has the opportunity to work his way in there too. And we mentioned Jake Majors and we got Hayden Connor. Like these guys,
DJ Campbell's been great too.
Jay Campbell, yeah, exactly. Like these guys have opportunities here to really start building their value here. And hopefully 3 weeks in a row we can be, that team that still hasn't let up a sack or a quarterback hit. And that's huge for a guy like Quinn who's suffered injuries in his career, right? Where we're literally keeping him clean, keeping him off the ground. Hasn't hit the ground. He has not hit the ground.
I think that's the biggest thing for his stock too, is like he hasn't put together a fully healthy season yet. And if we're on Quinn Ewers draft stock, like that's a major thing we have to see. He can't really miss time here. What's your guys' score predictions for this one?
I'm gonna say UTSA maybe drives down like once and scores like a early field goal or something. And I'll say it's 52-3.
Okay. Toss.
In my head, I had the exact same score prediction. Actually, I think they drive.
52 on Colorado State. So
yeah, 50. I'll just stick with my gut. 52-3 as well. I'm in lockstep with Nick. I think they have a late drive as well on some of our 3rd and 4th strings, but in those positions, they go for it on 4th instead of kicking the field goal. They get into field goal range. They don't convert, similar to what we saw against Colorado State, and they put up 3 points on us. As far as like they try for the touchdown at the end, and they don't get it, right? So yeah, I think we see some arch this game. Maybe even some Trey.
Oh,
that'd be wild. That'd be cool. I think we go 63-0. I think let's break 60. Sark, go break 60, dude.
Yeah.
Just like other teams are doing it.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah, do it, man. Like go. I like 63-0. I would love to see if Gibson hits. What's your guys' happy mark for Gibson?
I want to see like 15 carries. He hasn't done that yet. I want to see him hit over 80 yards. I think that's good.
Yeah. Toss.
Keep on building.
Or Blue. Sorry, Toss.
I think Jaden Blue is going to have over 120 yards rushing in this game.
Ooh, nice.
That's crazy.
I think he's going to break a 50+ yarder.
I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, UTSA definitely has the defense to do that on. They let up a lot of points against Texas State, and they gave some points against Kennesaw State too. So we have the opportunity to do that. Also, we got to highlight Trey Moore transferring from UTSA, coming to Texas, playing against your former team. He's going to want to get his. So I would highlight him as a guy to potentially get a sack or 2.
Nice. Yeah, it's a great one. It's a really great one. To how we haven't talked about him enough because he hasn't gotten that sack yet. I would say magic number for me, Blue, is 50. Magic number for Gibson is 75. If we hit 50 and 75, either guy, I'm going to be happy. That's over 120 on the ground from those dudes. Wisner getting his as well. So Nick, is the one guy you want to highlight for this game, Trey Moore?
Trey Moore on the defense, yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely some there's no bad blood, obviously, but there's, it means a little more in your heart when you're playing against your former team, going against your former teammates, your old coaching staff. He's going to want to get out there and make a name for himself on that field. No matter who you're playing. I think that's human nature. And I think we really need to get him going too. I mean, he's the guy that was highlighted in this transfer class as being one of the biggest transfers out there. And he's been pretty quiet, to be completely honest. So I think getting him out there and getting a sack or two would be huge. And on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, I think I pretty much already highlighted it. Like the whole O-line, just keep the confidence going, keep it rolling, keep Quinn off the ground, let your running backs eat. You guys are the key right now to unlocking this all.
Mm-hmm. Toss on offense, is it Mr. Blue?
I think he's going to have a really good day. I think our offense is going to have a really good day. So it's hard to pinpoint. I'll just propose instead. You guys talked about DeAndre Moore. You talked about Jonte Cook and how you want to see them get involved. I would love a few passes thrown the way of Juan Davis. I would love a red zone target to Juan Davis. He actually played a lot in that Michigan game, and he blocked really well. And I think he deserves that reward of a red zone target, a touchdown target. And I hope he converts. And I imagine he will. Maybe I sprinkle a little bit on a prop bet of Juan Davis to score. There's going to be good odds on that one. Yeah. And defensively, keep the streak alive. Jahdae Barron, get your third turnover in a row. Why not? Why not? He recovered that fumble that Loveland dropped. Basically just ball fell out of his hand, bumped his knee, bumped his other hand. Who really knows what happened on that one? But Jahdae was right there. He's a ball hawk. I want to see that third turnover for him this week.
Juan Davis, my 81 brother. We got the fraternity of numbers, and he's part of the 81 fraternity.
The 81s. Jade's mine. Again, be that you want to talk about guys that can raise their draft stock. Like, he's a guy that's going to get drafted. Let's see that stock rise too. Let's see him get a pick. Let's see him get a really nice ball hawk pick. Would love to see that at Jahdae Barron. And then my offensive highlight, I don't want that Gunnar Helm game to be a fluke in the pan. I want him to have 5 catches. I don't care what yards he goes for. More yards, great. But I want him to be a real threat and a real staple for Quinn. And I want that magic to keep working. And I'd love for Gunnar Helm to get 5 catches in this one. I think that's another magic number I'm looking for the Horns.